in November of 17, I had, it was an incidental finding from another health issue. From all the tests, all the scans, I had a hemangiomas. So throughout dealing with the other medical issue I had, every time I was scanned or treated for that issue, I had more, what they again kept telling me, more hemangiomas. I wasn't well. I had the other health issue remedied, that it resolved. So, but yet I came out with more nodules, both lobes of the liver affected. Even went in for a biopsy, and was in the OR. And the IRAD, interventional radiologist, came in and he said, I'm not going to do this. This is a hemangioma. These are hemangiomas. I just wanted an answer. But he refused the biopsy.
Wow. That's interesting. That's interesting.
Unplugged me, unhooked me from everything, and sent me home out of the OR. I went directly to my primary and said, okay, find me another one. He refused because there's still something wrong. And at that time, I did have very slightly elevated AFP and CEA. So my thoughts were, there has to be something, or I wouldn't, those should be nothing.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Again, kept being told, hemangiomas, if, we just watch these, if ever need be, we'll find another way to treat these. Finally, 6 years later, after being ill, I continued with weight loss, complaints, feeling unwell, and self-advocating continuously, going to multiple physicians referred to by my, other doctors, other physicians, and continuously told the same thing. And I'm not a goosey person, if that makes sense. I wasn't fearful. I just wanted to find out. I knew I wasn't well. We were all at a point, even my primary, they thought it was in my head. And my family too. I had gone through a couple of losses. My mother, a younger sister, who we were only 17 months apart. So, and I understood that where they were coming from, but I knew that wasn't the cause of what was going on inside of me. As far as the physical, my appetite depleted. I was not depressed. I was concerned.
Right.
Because I felt like I was doing everything right for me that I could possibly do. Interestingly enough, in the last few months, just out of curiosity, because I lost count, if I put in my contacts, search my phone contacts, just liver, there's probably 15 doctors I consulted with.
Wow. That's remarkable self-advocacy on your part to just keep pushing. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. I was asked questions that weren't relative. I was told I had cirrhosis. Just all kinds of things. They would want to continue to treat me, but it was sucking the life out of me financially, emotionally. And so at one point, I just thought, they're right. And I'm just going to learn to live like this and live the best I can and take the best self-care I can of myself. In September, I went to see my primary once again. And I said, I haven't complained for a while, because it's just, I'm chasing my own tail,
Yeah.
but I don't feel good. And I have all these symptoms still, and they're worsening.
Mhm.
So he said, let's do a CT, or I don't remember, honestly, CT, MRI, maybe both. Let's take a look at that liver again. Or is that, I said, okay, great.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. And I hadn't had a scan in a couple of years.
Okay.
And in those 2 years, I had developed, I don't know, 20 more lesions. And both lobes then had become affected. He decided, to try to seek help for me, was reaching out, sending my records as they do to other physicians that could help care for me. And they're just kept coming back, hemangiomas. 2 weeks later, still waiting to see another gastro, another hepatologist, hematologist. I ended up so sick and in the ER. And while there at a local hospital, within 2 weeks, it had become that aggressive. It was like on a Friday night, I went to the ER, and it had exaggerated the symptoms to the point that I really didn't think I was going to make it. New symptoms had developed that were strange, that were scary. I had developed the nausea like no other, like I'd never had before, with profuse vomiting that was a thick, foamy. I was choking on it. They had to suction and vacuum.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
That's wild.
the pain, which I had been able to tolerate, had become so exaggerated.
Localized in your abdomen, like around your liver?
But it was always, they kept telling me I should have had pain on my right side. I kept saying, I don't care where you're telling me it's supposed to be.
Right.
It's my left side. I could hardly stand up straight, barely walk. I had to have family and a couple of friends take me to the ER. Thankfully, I lived just a couple of blocks away from a level 1 trauma center where I went.
Okay.
They wanted to keep me. And I said, no, I'm not going to wait here while you find my CT. And I'm gonna go home, and I'll be there. And you can call me when you find it. And I had told him I had just had the CT 2 weeks prior. That would those at an imaging facility, could they get together and have a meeting of the minds with the imaging that they had? My primary did help to do that. And I went to his office the next day. In fact, called him from the ER. My daughter did. I wasn't able to. And said, look, this is where mom's at and what's going on. And she wants out of here because this is what she's experiencing. And he did say, go ahead and bring her home, but bring her to me tomorrow. So we did. And he said, I'm going to collect and try to, both imaging at the facilities. Let me try to get a hold of it. And I wanted to try to have an addendum written and get a meeting of the minds here. And then we'll go from there. And I want to see you back in a couple of days. A couple of days had passed, and I went to see him again. And I was a ill woman. So I went to that appointment. And while at that appointment, I got a call from the hospital, the ER nurse practitioner that treated me there, and said, we found your CT. It's been read. We have the report. You need immediate care. You have liver cancer. I said, you can't say that without biopsy. You need to know I am right now in my general practitioner, my primary's office. I am seeking follow-up care,
Mhm.
and he and I'll visit about where to take where my next steps are.
Right.
And I'll be back over to get my imaging and the report right away.
Right.
So I did when I left his office. He wanted me to bring everything back to him. I did. And I'm going to smile and laugh because I have to tell you, I'm 63 and I use the word trippy. This is trippy. So
Real. Yeah.
I take the imaging and everything back to my primary, pick it up at the hospital I'd been in. So he said, call Lifelink. And he wrote it down on a post-it.
Mhm.
Okay. So I went home, and my youngest daughter, I'm a mother of 6, she was with me, and she's still laughing to this day because I called Lifelink and I tried to order a new liver just like a pizza.
I've never heard of such a thing. That's wild.
I
Hi,
left a message. Nobody,
I need a liver.
I
Okay.
need a liver.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I was
Wow.
like, I'm ordering up a pizza.
Right.
2 or 3 days later, they called me and they said, the patient advocate called and said, it asked me if I was the lady that left the message. I am. She was very helpful.
Mhm.
She contacted them, where did you get our number and this information? I gave her the brief synopsis. She called my primary and suggested he reach out to a hepatologist at a larger local hospital. So I made an appointment with him, went in and saw him, and he then did order a biopsy. So I was finally biopsied March 11th, and March 13th, I got the my chart notification. And March, I don't know, it took them 4 days to contact me. They called me, and the hepatologist gave me the report, asked me if I understood it. I said yes. I had it for about 4 days and already done some research, and am so thankful because it was relief. It was like, finally, instead of, I felt like part of my fight was over, if that makes sense. Okay, we can move on now. We have the diagnosis. Over the years, I found myself frustrated.
Mhm.
I got angry.
Yeah.
My family would, specifically my brother, calm me down. You're mad at them. Don't get mad at them. They're trying to help you, but they're not. It was, I found myself being passive aggressive over the years. At times, a person I didn't like because I was angry. I knew there was something wrong, and nobody could find out why. I didn't know we lived in that kind of world. If that, with everything that is so abundant, from medical research to technology, I didn't understand why it would take almost 7 years for someone to identify really what was going on. I'm a very optimistic person, and I'm in very good hands with my healthcare team. But with that said, I'm not a candidate for IRE. I'm not a candidate for other treatment plans that I would have been had had that biopsy I was willing to do a few years ago. I was exceptionally thankful for the pathologist that made the correct diagnosis and knew what they were looking at.
Yeah.
Because I already had known or been told at that facility, I was their first ever diagnosis. So I knew that it was just amazing. So with that said, they immediately offered me a liver transplant. I immediately then wanted a second opinion. I wasn't on board for an immediate transplant to get on board. They had expedited things.
Okay.
I did meet with that facility's interventional radiologist. They've never treated this. They had offered Y90. And I had told him, thank you, but I am going to get a second opinion. And had already reached out and had an appointment at the University of Miami. And I chose Dr. Gina Diamato. One of the most important things she said to me was, 90% of your liver is still good. And she explained EHE in detail and impressed upon me the importance, and their goal is basically to keep off the 5 main organs we need to live functioning. Every other of my organs are all fine and high functioning, doing well. And to know that I still had 90%, I didn't need a liver transplant.
Yeah.
I didn't need systemic therapy. She didn't believe at that time. She didn't race to do that. She wanted to take it to their tumor boards.
Yep.
The other facility did too. So the tumor board met. Dr. Gina had called back, and they presented to me what they felt to be the best option and treatment plan at the time was TACE. By the time the tumor team had met, my tissues had been sent to CARIS, CARIS, the AI labs, as well as a couple of other physicians, pathologists. And then I was told that I had the ultra rare gene fusion. I was a yapper. And now you're not just one in a million, you're one in a couple. So I'm a 2-headed unicorn. And that meant, with discussion with the Dr. Gina and her team, I learned that there's even less standard guideline treatments. They presented to me TACE, transarterial chemoembolization. The procedure is, for those of us that qualify, and you do have to have qualifications to be able to go through it. Other testing, pre-testing, an echocardiogram, because they go in through the femoral artery directly with a catheter. They chose my right groin, and the catheter then goes up through into the liver. Because this is a vascular malignancy, it's epithelioid hemangioendothelioma. Looks like, this, I'm told, and this is the way I envision it and I see from everything I've looked at. It's like a bird's nest made of blood vessels.
A tangle of blood vessels.
Yes.
That's described to me. Yeah.
Yes. So they can, and because it's vascular, the catheter is then led into the tumor itself, where they then fill that tumor and the blood vessels, the whole tumor, with chemo and close it off, shut it down so it's locked in there.
What chemo gets delivered? Was it doxorubicin?
Yes.
Okay.
I had doxorubicin. Yeah. And they based that on, and they chose that treatment because I had 3 larger, or considered larger. I know many of our EHE brothers and sisters have some that are larger than mine, but mine were, the largest was a little over 5 centimeters. And I had two, these are in the right lobe, segments 6, 7, and 8 were all affected. I had two at a little over 3.5. So my first procedure was, and they decided that was the best treatment plan for me. And I agreed with them. So July 15th was my first procedure. You get a scan 1 month post-op. The chemo continues to work for 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
I got that first scan and anxiously awaited my follow-up a week later. And I kept hearing the words happy from my IRAD and from Dr. Gina. Dr. Felipe de Souza watched very carefully, and I appreciated that post-op because I didn't know what to expect.
Right.
And he was attentive, and it made me so comfortable that he really cared. I was in a lot of pain initially. I was told I would be.
After the procedure, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And the difference and I asked them why not the Y90 versus the TACE. They decided I needed an aggressive form of treatment.
Since they were all growing and pretty large from,
And multiply, right.
Yeah.
And continuing to multiply.
Right.
So I actually, he acted like I didn't understand, but I was just amazed and almost in disbelief.
Right.
Of the 3 initial tumors that were treated in the right lobe, the 2 smaller ones were necrotic.
That means they've died, right?
They died.
Yay.
Dead. Just dead. I was like, yes. And the big daddy, and he said, and Dr. Gina had said the same thing, but I saw her first before I got to see him. And she's like, this is what he does, but I'm looking, and Tina, I think they've shrunk. And I knew she wouldn't offer up that information without some knowledge, knowing that, and give me hope if there wasn't any.
Right.
And when meeting with him, his first words were, "I'm happy." And I thought, if you're happy,
I'm thrilled.
Happy. We did a happy dance. And he asked me, of course, they kept continuing to ask me how I felt, side effects.
How did it do on so the largest one wasn't quite necrotic, but it had shrunk? Is that what?
Had shrunk from a little over about 5.5 centimeters to about 3.5, 3 to 3.5.
Wonderful. Yeah.
1 month. So he said, I'm kind of thinking this is up to you. We can continue to wait and watch all the nodules, tumors, lesions in the left lobe, which there's 15 to 20-ish. They have shadows, and it's really hard for them to count. This is odd malignancy. They had remained stable. So he said, we can wait and watch, or I can go back in and blast that big boy one more time. What do you think? I said, let's go get it.
Okay. Yeah.
I was able to go back to work. I did step down last year from working full-time to part-time because I wasn't well.
Yeah.
And I was burning all the calories I could take in at work, and I knew better. I wasn't well. But 1 week post-TACE, because of my limitations were only don't lift more than 10 pounds. If you feel like it, do it. Our motto is just live. I love what I do. and I'm going to live. I'm going back to work. 1 week post-op, I was able to. And I'm going back next week again. I just received second treatment last Wednesday. I feel better today, and I'm only 5 days post-TACE.
Right.
Than I have in almost 7 years. I love that I actually, like I said, I don't have the appetite yet I'd like to have, but I'm optimistic that it'll all come back again. Have faith. No matter if it's hope and faith in your family that gets you through day by day, a higher power, your care team. If you've lived one day with this, you're still a survivor. We're survivors.